Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Serious Strategy Game, and we are returning to Rule the Waves 3. And indeed, here we are. War has broken out between Japan and Great Britain, as we sort of expected in the last turn. That is obviously not very good. Anyway, we are going to do a surprise attack here against the enemy fleet. I don't think there is much in terms of the enemy fleet, actually. I'm not sure whether they truly have a heavy cruiser, a carrier, an AV auxiliary vehicle, and some destroyers here. So we're going to mobilize everyone, of course. We're going to activate everyone as well. And we are going to go into the first battle over here, which is going to be interesting. Now remember, Japan has that added benefit of producing these types of surprise attacks, which I do find very interesting. So this is the interface then here. So let's zoom out a little bit. You can see the whole globe is simulated, but obviously there's only sort of a small area where we're actually going to be fighting. We're actually going to attack the enemy base here at Y. Hi Y. Okay, that's the thing. You can see there's actually a line over here which represents the dusk to dawn area. So up over here is night, this is twilight, this is daylight. So we've got a couple of divisions and ships down here. We've got our two carriers, our two puny carriers. They're very small kind of ships actually down here. And this little square box means that we're actually controlling these guys manually. We're going to ask these guys to be 2 knots below their max speed, so 25 knots. This is the wind direction. I think as soon as we are launching our aircraft, these guys will turn into the wind, so we're going to see about that. This little dot here means that these guys are now supporting that group. Sorry, that these guys are under AI control, and you can see they're actually set up to support that. That is one of the consequences of the control that we set off in the divisions. Right, we've also got these light cruisers. They are screening. You know what? They can be AI controlled. We are really going to focus on the main ships there. We've got our 2 main battle lines, so 2 groups of battleships down here. These guys, which ships are you? You're the Fuzu and Tsugami, so they are kind of the good ships that we identified with their 12, 13-inch guns. They're pretty decent. I like them. They were some of the ships that were there before. We've also got this second class, and I'm not sure whether no, it's just them. Right, so these guys are not quite as good. They have the centerline turrets, which I kind of hate because they're doing not that well for us. And we've got all of these light cruisers, again, which are screening and scouting for these guys. So we can set these guys up. And then we've got our heavy cruiser squadron up over here, which also should be doing okay-ish. Right, let's set everyone to be AI controlled, except for the capital ships. And then we're going to move up until here and see what damage we can do to the enemy. And to be honest, I think what we're going to do is we're going to ask these guys here, who are the slightly better ships, to be following our main carrier fleet, if I can do that. Ooh, no, I can't. So that probably means if we go to order of battle over here, yeah, we are actually having 2 separate forces here. That's slightly annoying, but it should be okay. Right, what we can then do is at least tell these cruisers to... This is the third battle squadron over here, right? No, this is second battle squadron. Where's the third battle squadron? You're not the third, are you? No, you're the first. The third battle squadron must be in here. So no, they are. I thought I saw somehow that they may be overlapping here. And you know, we're going to spend 1 minute here for these guys to maybe disentangle. Yeah, okay. So the game did put all of our battleships in here, so the 2nd and the 3rd division, which at least is interesting. But that does mean that we've also got the 3rd division right into here somewhere. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask these guys here to be faster for sure, and we're going to send them all basically... Ooh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. We're going to send them all towards that direction. You can see now they've disentangled themselves, so that's going to be okay. Right, we're going to ask the 3rd battle squadron to be following the 2nd one. They're going to be a core part, and we're going to, again, ask these guys here to follow them. So that means basically you guys here are sort of the lead division for that. The exception is going to be the 1st battle squadron. They're going to be sticking closer to our carriers. Right, then the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up a naval strike. So we're going to order an airstrike. We're going to click the location to be in the enemy harbor right over there. And that brings us to this little interface here. We set for location. We could at other points locate a target and then set that up. You can see the range to that location from the current position of the carriers is 115 miles. That we'll need to keep in mind for the ranges. And we're going to ask for that to be a coordinated strike. So we're going to ask everyone to arrive over target at the same time. These are the types of aircraft that we've got. These are the carriers that they are on, and this is the number of airplanes that we currently have ready. Some of them are not ready. For example, some of them might be damaged or just not available, that kind of thing. So that's usually the case. We're for sure going to ask the torpedo bombers to come along. They're going to carry a torpedo. A torpedo is a heavy loadout. We can only have 32 torpedo strikes in total, but this little H here means that that counts as a heavy range. We're well within that range at 250 kilometers, sorry, nautical miles, so that should be a-okay. We're also going to ask these guys here and these guys to come along. Your experience is not that great, this is only fair, but it's going to be okay. But your loadout is going to be a torpedo, that's good. We're also of course going to ask these dive bombers to come along. They currently are carrying a medium loadout, which means one 500-pound bomb. We could go for a 600-pound bomb if we were a little bit closer. That would put them at a heavy range, 105 miles. 136 miles is fine. I think this is going to be slightly better. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to ask a couple of fighters to come along as escort. Escort counts as light, so that's going to be okay too. We could go for some bombs on these guys too, but that would really not matter. That would really not work that well, except if we close the distance somewhat. 11 planes is, I think, a decent number. Oh, yeah, but there's one issue, and that is the strike now currently exceeds the deck load. And that is what you can see over here. So the number of planes that the carrier can sort of launch at the same time is only 27, which is not great, but it's still doable. So we'll need to keep that in mind. That means we can't use all of these guys, but we can use 3, and that should work now. We can also ask a couple of more guys over here to join. Yeah, I guess honestly these 10 fighters are going to be fine, and you know what, we're going to leave all of these guys home. That should be okay. There's going to be a time over target, that is 2:25. What time is it now? There's the local time, which is 6, and there is the current time, which is 11, so that would be in 3 hours. Can that be? Yeah, it seems to be the case. We could go a lot faster if we were not to go for a coordinated strike. But you know what? I think this needs to be fine. We do need a coordinated strike here. So let's immediately hit the launch one. Notice that all of these guys are counting as not ready. So they are not spotted. They are deep within the ship. They are not set up at all. That means there's going to be some while for these guys to become effective and get going. So that explains why it's taking almost 3 hours. Nevertheless, we do... Yeah, okay. It will need to be per carrier. That's going to be okay. Right, so the battleships are going to make their way over to the target, and they're going to try to finish off anything that goes. We're going to advance the game here by a couple of minutes just so that everyone can sort themselves out. Let's advance by 5 minutes, and that should be a-okay. Now, the unfortunate bit is that we can't really control these battleships to be closing in with the carriers, but I suppose that's going to be alright. Yeah, and you can see our battleships are starting to make their way over there. There's no collision mechanics. Oh, there are collision mechanics, I think, with the enemy ships, but not between friendly ships. You can also see... No, you can also see these little dots appearing all over the map. And that is, we're currently sending out torpedo bombers in a recon configuration. That is this search pattern over here. And I should have adjusted that before, actually, but I didn't. So, this is the current research... this is the current scouting pattern. This is the area which our scout planes do try to cover. Now, honestly, it doesn't need to be that far away because we know that the enemy is probably going to be much closer. And I'm guessing that the right pattern here, the left pattern here can be a lot closer too. So it really doesn't need to be that big of a cone. I'm happy to find anyone over here. We don't need night combat air patrol, but a medium combat air patrol is going to be useful as well. Combat air patrol, of course, refers to the number of airplanes that are over our group and that are currently supporting us. Right, we can hit this little thing here to send these guys over into that direction. You can also set the course manually and do a lot of things there. Let's advance sort of by these 5 minutes. You can see there's quite a couple of planes down here. This is currently the Combat Air Patrol, 9 fighters from each carrier it seems. That should be okay. Right. You guys can actually also try to get a little bit closer towards the northern position here. That makes it a little bit easier to go there and do that. Also notice there are currently some locks here, which should be okay. Yes. Right, we can adjust the time here to just advance minute by minute. It is of course round based, but sort of 1 round is 1 minute, so everything should be okay. You can see all of these dots moving out. They are the scout planes, but there are these little dots down there. If you can see them, that's a little bit more substantial, and that is currently at least 1 strike, if not both of them. Torpedo bombs there, fighters in an escort configuration. And you can see they are on a naval strike pattern there, so they are streaming over towards the enemy base. Now we're going to see what they're going to do. Now they're only going to let us know very sort of indirectly what they're hitting, which is of course historical, and we didn't always have perfect information. There's another block coming in. These guys are coming in a little bit late, but that's going to be okay. And here's the first notification here. There's an enemy. So we've got a report now of 1 enemy carrier, 1 destroyer with a southeasterly course at the current time. That should be pretty bad for them because we've sent our airplanes to that direction. They're going to try to find someone there. I'm pretty sure they're not going to miss the airplane. The weather seems to be fine. So yeah, weather partly cloudy, dead calm. I think that's going to be okay. I will not be too concerned there. There's another report here of a carrier. That could be the same. It could be another one. We don't know, but often it's going to be the same. I don't expect the Brits to have that many carriers around over here. You know what, you guys? You are the 3rd. No, you're what? You are a battleship category. You guys, why are you lagging so far behind? You've got a maximum speed of 90 knots. You guys are currently traveling 90 knots. We're going to call that okay because they're going to sort of travel in the same direction there. And here we are. This is letting us know that 7 of our aircrafts are approaching enemy ships. That's okay. There's going to be more. Stop. We'll need to take a look here at what's going on. So, and this is what I was saying, that at least for airstrikes, it's only very indirectly letting you know what's happening. This sort of light grey stuff is what was happening last turn, so let's go through that. 4 torpedo bombers from Hosho, torpedo bomb an enemy destroyer. I'm not sure whether that was a good idea. And in the attack run, a couple of things happen. There's heavy AA, medium AA, which both fire. There are no guns available, so that just doesn't happen. And then there's 1 light gun that is attacking the aircraft as they are approaching. One of them actually hits, so one of our 4 torpedo bombers is destroyed as they are approaching that. Then they release their torpedoes. We don't know whether these torpedoes hit yet. They will take a couple of minutes to travel to their target. 1 or 2 minutes usually. But then there's another attack by 5 dive bombers onto an enemy carrier. At least that's what they are reporting. Heavy guns are not available. 3 medium guns are being fired. 1 of the aircrafts is damaged. That potentially means that it aborts the mission. But at least the other 4 do go ahead and bomb. And 2 of them actually do score a hit on this enemy carrier. I like that. I like that a lot. That's very good. It also firing light AA guns at the attacking aircraft, but there's no hit there. And then in this turn, there's going to be another 2 torpedo bombers that are trying to do an attack. I don't see any bomb hits. I didn't see a notification about a torpedo hit yet, so there we go. This is a torpedo hit. That's good. We don't know what exactly was hit there, but that's good. Another 2 torpedo bombers are doing their thing, so we're going to get these notifications about what they're doing here and whether they're going to score any hits. So far, 2 dive bomb hits and 2 torpedo hits. That's not too bad. Let's go through this one by one. They're actually dive bombing the destroyer that was reported there earlier, so that's also interesting to see. Although kind of interesting that they're doing that. I would not have prioritized the torpedo bomber the destroyer, to be honest. But you know what? That is what's happening. These dive bombers are attacking the carrier. No hits there. More torpedo bombers. That is also okay. And honestly, the sound is a little bit annoying to me. So let's turn that down because honestly, the sound also is not that great. Good. Right. And another 2 torpedo hits, and I think they were probably from the attack run on the carrier. So that's great, and that is one of the great things here about this surprise attack. Torpedo bombers are incredibly likely to attack in this type of scenario, where they are just starting up their engines, they are in harbor, they don't have a lot of defenses. This is Trento, this is our version of Pearl Harbor in this alternative timeline. Looks like most of our stuff was done. There are the latecomers. Everyone else is sort of returning to their carrier, to their home carriers at the moment. But there's at least one more packaging coming in from 8 torpedo bombers, and these guys down there, no, they are returning. But 8 more torpedo bombers coming in, so that's nice. Hopefully they're going to score a hit here. Yeah, they are approaching enemies. We thought as much. Let's go through this. See, they are attacking. What are you attacking? Torpedo bomb enemy carrier. Good. 1 hit, 2 hit, 3 hit, 3 hits on a carrier. That guy is very likely going down. 4 hits. We don't know whether they actually hit the carrier. They might have hit another ship that was in between. And that sort of stuff happens. There might be a dud on these torpedoes. There is fog of war. We don't truly know what's going on here. But still, I find that kind of encouraging. Right, let's set everyone up. You're going to travel home. We're going to wait for all of our planes to come back. And then we're going to see whether we can do a second strike. Mind you, in the meantime, these guys are going to start their engines. They're going to come out of harbor. They might attack us. They might... I don't think they have an airbase over here. And they might do a counterattack too. So we're going to need to see that. And I'm a little bit reluctant to hit the advance timer too often. But advance by 5 minutes is okay, I think. 5 minutes can be a very long time in carrier warfare. But for now, that seems to be okay. Right, our ships are drawn out a little bit. I'm gonna accept that for now because that means that, you know what, actually these guys here, let's get them away from AI control. That means you can be a little bit faster, and I would like you to get into combat a little bit earlier. Mostly because I think, oh, there was some information there. Mostly because I think it would be good to get these guys while they are still raising steam rather than trying to do anything else here. Right, you guys, are you going? Maybe you should be going a little bit to the right here, just so that you don't hit the ground. The AI isn't really great at dealing with the ground itself. Right, let's also check on our aircraft carriers. So most of our guys have returned, not all of them, of course, unfortunately. Let's nevertheless grab a couple of guys here, torpedo bombers, dive bombers, that kind of thing. And make sure that we are going to grab... We do have enough torpedoes, I think, to do another strike here, potentially. That's 15. Yeah, that should be working out fine. Notice that we have lost a couple of torpedo bombers, and we can go for heavy loadout on the dive bombers, because we are now much closer, 51 nautical miles. And I guess we should try to grab more fighters. Yeah, let's grab you guys here in escort configuration. And what we're going to do now is we're going to ready that strike. So we're going to make sure that these guys are ready to strike the enemy whenever we need them to. Which of course is going to be super useful, I hope. Right, there is a downside to that. And that is sort of the midway scenario, in that carriers are incredibly vulnerable as they are preparing strikes and as strikes are ready on the deck. The moment something hits you at that time, bad things start to happen. Right, here is our first actual sighting of an enemy ship. It's right over here. There's an unidentified land feature as well. That unidentified land feature very likely is a shore battery, which we can take out, so that's not as bad. Let's make sure that we are slightly below our main, our actual speed. Our heavy cruisers are going to go slightly to the front here and start to check out what that is. We currently think that it's a destroyer. And actually Sugami, so this battleship here, as you can see by this little red line, has already started to fire on one of the land features there, at least with their 2 frontal turrets. So that's nice. And notice, by the way, I don't think that the centerline turrets would be able to reach that. This line, by the way, here is the range of the main guns. We can also see the range where we can spot enemies, and a couple of other things, including radar ranges, which we currently don't have, so that's a little bit moot. But I think that's going to be okay. Let's try to get the coastal batteries done for. We have identified 2 batteries over here, actually, as 4-inch and 6-inch guns. That is interesting at least, and we do think that we know something about this destroyer here. It does have 6 torpedo tubes, so we should try to not get too close to it. A couple of 5-inch guns, relatively a lot for a destroyer, but not the most that is possible. Right, shore batteries can of course do a lot of damage towards us too, but we're actually scoring a hit here. That's the first hit with a 13-inch gun, so that should do quite a bit of damage there, I would hope. And I think with the firepower that we are bringing here, this is pretty much our home waters. There's another hit, there's another hit. And once you have really sort of zoomed in on that, that typically does a lot of good. Right, now, these heavy cruisers, I would like you guys to specifically target the destroyer here. And I would like you to go a little bit more straight towards the west over here, so that more of your guns can bear on the enemy. Currently, you're actually firing on the land feature, and it sometimes takes a couple of minutes until you're registering to fight to the other side. But actually using your 4-inch guns to fight on that, to shoot on that destroyer too, which is of course pretty good. That is what we'd expect them to do. But you're still using your main guns to attack the coastal batteries there, which honestly I think is really a job for the battleships, which are much closer and can do a lot more damage there. But still we're doing that, so that's not great. But yeah, you're seeing we're scoring a lot of hits here. The slightly irritating bit is that we... Oh, notice that. That's in a single minute here, Sagami scores 3 13-inch guns hits, another 13 from Fruzo, 4-inch from Fruzo, 6-inch from one of our light cruisers actually, which is sort of spotting for that. It's a bit annoying that they're so close to one another, but oh my. But more importantly, I think at least we are scoring a couple of hits here on the enemy destroyer, which is still going strong there. I don't see any indication they would be slowing down. And so far, nothing has been scored on our end, so that is pretty good. There's another land feature there. That's another coastal battery. But destroying that would be really good the moment that we start to do some sort of land grab here. I'm slightly concerned now about the range here of that destroyer. Let's actually check on our destroyers here. So what would be our torpedo range? This guy is well within torpedo range. This is torpedo range, which means we are probably within his torpedo range too, which means we should probably do a little bit of a turn here with our heavy cruisers. So let's try to turn towards the north, hoping that we're going to avoid any torpedoes that he might have launched, and also force our our heavy cruisers to actually start shooting with the heavy guns, which they are currently doing. You can see there's an 8-inch hit on the fish class there. And here's the first hit on our ship, so let's look at that more closely. Sagami here has been hit. Why actually only using one of your turrets there? That's a hard decision to make. Right, so Sagami here has been hit by one light gun. That of course doesn't do that much, but you can see it was a superstructure hit by a 4-inch gun at 7,000 yards. Not going to be dramatically dangerous for us, so that's going to be basically okay. Right, more importantly, we are scoring quite a couple of hits now on the Flying Fish class. Couple of 8-inch guns there scoring hits. That is pretty good, I think. It also is very likely there that we are... You can see it slow down. It has definitely slowed down already. It's pretty slow for a destroyer here. There are a lot of coastal batteries. There are a lot of coastal batteries, and I don't see any capital ships actually, which is kind of interesting. Okay, let's try to bring our ships here down here, and I'm guessing that our main ships can also travel north, because I don't really want to bring them closer towards that destroyer. That destroyer is not worth getting a torpedo hit on our ships. Right, that was apparently the last ship of them, which is now sinking. That means the scenario is over, and it's a bit unfortunate. I would have liked to destroy all of these coastal batteries. That's okay. And here's the sort of after-action review. First line is what we had in combat: 8 battleships, 2 carriers that we knew, and here's what the Brits had, which is undamaged, has light damage, heavy damage, and sunk or destroyed. They've lost 1 carrier, they've lost 1 destroyer, they have 1 destroyer with heavy damage, and 2 shore installations with heavy damage or which suffered heavy damage or destruction. They also started with 60 aircraft, 36 of which were fighters, 12 torpedo bombers, 12 dive bombers. All of them went down with the carrier, so all of them are lost on the ground. This is a great victory, 70,000 points for us, as you would expect. This is Japan and their attacks. We can actually check in more detail here, and I like to do that because we can see the Furious. That is the enemy aircraft carrier. Slightly odd placement here of the guns, sort of on the flight deck, I would suppose. Argus class, that looks like a converted ship, and I really like the design here a little bit. I mean, I don't like the brown, but it's a nice feature here. We can see what actually hit them. So overall we did 1 bomb hit and 6 torpedo hits, and we can see even when they happened. So the first hit here was a 500-pound bomb hit from one of our aircraft from Hosho with the semi-armored piercing bomb. That was doing a lot of damage because it was actually an engine room hit. It did hit the deck and it did penetrate. That's what this little asterisk means. That did cause some flooding, and you can see that the damage control immediately tried to limit the flooding and actually was successful in that. But 1 minute later there was a torpedo hit which was actually critical. That was a propeller shaft damage from, again, Hosho. And another 7 minutes later, another torpedo from Shakaku, another one on the engine. This time there's a lot of flooding. There are actually some fires that are starting. The flooding is being reduced. The fire is being reduced. The fire is actually being extinguished, but then it does sink through progressive flooding because that just was too many torpedo hits. A couple of minutes later, in this second strike group, these guys come actually in and they are hitting her with 3 more torpedoes. So that is what we saw, but this little symbol here means that was actually after they counted as sinking. But they were still on the surface, they were sinking, they were doomed. So that's a little bit of a wastage, but that's okay. There were no other targets anyway, but that can be a problem in a more target-rich environment where you sort of saturate one target way too much. Right, nevertheless, that's a great victory. 22,000 tons. That's not a very big carrier, but on the other hand, it's bigger than ours. So yeah, I'm going to be happy about that. I'm going to take that. Also, there's the Fawn. This guy was not hit by any bombs, not hit by any torpedoes, but it did suffer a lot of medium hits and light hits, and that was what is causing it to sink. Notice, by the way, it was actually shooting down one of our aircraft. There is a torpedo hit from Hosho, but it was a dud. There was also a near miss from a bomb. A near miss can do some damage. In this case, I don't think it did. It did raise steam fast enough for that second wave to not do any damage, but that's okay. Ultimately, we came in with our heavy cruisers. It actually did launch torpedoes at us, but we were able to evade them. I didn't even see that. It did launch another set of torpedoes, but ultimately we did destroy it pretty niftily with all of our 4-inch guns. And then the 8-inch guns come in, and now it is sinking. So that's pretty nice too. We don't need to be too concerned here with the other stuff. Maybe, oh, the Gary class. That might be interesting too, because it did suffer 1 torpedo hit and it was actually a critical hit with the electric power being disabled. But it did manage to actually get into harbor. It was limping there. You can see the flotation here is almost to the max, so it almost sank, but not quite. Good for you. You managed to get into harbor, into the proper harbor, and sort of beach yourself there and be done for that. We could also look at the air details here. I don't think that's too important. Maybe only, well, I do think that we were doing pretty well here with our torpedo bombers. So, by the way, thank you to one of you who mentioned in the comments that we didn't have torpedo bombs. I didn't even notice that, so we were able to fix that in due time. Right, great victory here, 4,000 points for us. That is good. We're gaining 2 prestige. We're going to save that battle, actually, and that is fantastic. Now, here's the big issue. We are now at war against the UK. The UK is actually allied to Germany. Intel says that France also hates us at that moment. So things aren't going too great here for us. Except for that first battle here, which is really fantastic. We're going to look at the almanac and briefly check on the situation here. Their naval budget is way beyond ours. Their tonnage is way beyond ours, especially if you include the German stuff. They've got 10 battleships. Germany only has 1, but seems to be a pretty decent one, I guess. Germany has very few capital ships, actually, although they do have carriers. That's not historical, of course. And it actually looks as though we now have the same amount of tonnage in terms of carriers as Great Britain. So, just on pure comparison towards Great Britain, I mean, we're slightly worse, but honestly not that far away from that until you look at these categories down here. They've got light carriers, 4 of them, or 3 plus 1 of them. They've got 2 times as many heavy cruisers, although not quite of the same tonnage it seems. We've got more light cruisers, that's nice, and they've got way more destroyers, which is surprising because we actually wanted historically to get into a situation where we mostly do destroyer battles, but not for now, I suppose. They also have a lot more submarines, and we'll need to deal with that. Notice we are currently running a deficit, but I don't think it's too bad. Right, what's the situation in terms of where ships are positioned? So there are some British ships down here in Southeast Asia. What do they have? A heavy cruiser, 1 AMC, so an armored merchant cruiser, I guess. They've got some in the Indian Ocean, another heavy cruiser, but most of them are actually in the Mediterranean. I suppose they are coming for us. 5 battleships, a carrier. Now, the good thing is, one advantage is they have a global empire, so they might take a while for us to gather their forces, get into our place, and they will have to guard against other stuff too. Especially, I think their tensions with Italy are pretty high, so that means that they might end up at another war against Italy, although, to be honest, I'm not sure how much help that is going to be. Well, four battleships, no battle cruisers. Notice the Soviet Union is building battle cruisers. Yeah, I mean, Italy wouldn't be the greatest help, but it would certainly distract them. That being said, I think this episode has run long enough. Next time around, we're going to look at the strategic situation here, do a couple of more battles. Let me know what you think about the battle system. To be honest, I think, of course, it's not the greatest, but I like how detailed it is, how much there's going on under the hood, and honestly, with the division system, I really like how that plays out in Rule of the Waves 3 here, because in Rule of the Waves 2, you'd always have that mismatched sort of puddle of forces that you had in any given scenario, and I think it's just much more consistent, and that allows us to actually build a fleet as an integrated system. I talked way too much about that already, so for now, thank you very much for watching, hope you enjoyed, do leave a like, and let me know your thoughts down in the comment below. Bye bye guys!